Quantum computing has spent years living in the future tense. It was always coming, always promising, always a little hard to pin down. But Washington just changed the framing. With two executive orders signed on June 22, 2026, the federal government is no longer treating quantum as just a long-range science project. It is treating it as national strategy. One order is offensive, in the economic and technological sense. Accelerate quantum computers, quantum sensors, quantum networks, and the industrial ecosystem around them. The other is defensive. Move federal systems faster toward post-quantum cryptography, because the encryption protecting today's sensitive data may not be safe forever. That pairing tells us something important. The United States is not saying practical, fault-tolerant quantum computing has fully arrived. It has not. What Washington is saying is that the technology is now strategically important enough that government cannot afford to wait until it is mature. And for investors, cybersecurity leaders, contractors, and technology companies, that is the real story. Quantum is moving from the lab bench to the policy agenda, the procurement pipeline, the defense roadmap, and the capital markets. Today, we're looking at what changed, why it matters, and what to watch next. Let's start with the basic idea. Quantum computing is not simply a faster version of classical computing. It uses quantum bits, or qubits, which can represent information in ways that classical bits cannot. In theory, that makes quantum computers powerful for certain specialized problems: simulating molecules, optimizing complex systems, modeling materials, and potentially breaking some of the public key cryptography that secures the modern internet. That last point is why quantum is already a security issue, even before it becomes a mass-market computing product. Today's public key encryption systems, including RSA and elliptic curve cryptography, rely on mathematical problems that are extremely hard for classical computers to solve at meaningful scale. A sufficiently large, fault-tolerant quantum computer could change that. The key phrase is sufficiently large and fault-tolerant. We are not there yet. Current quantum systems still face major engineering hurdles: error rates, scaling, control systems, cooling, manufacturing, and software tooling. But cybersecurity planning cannot wait for the day a quantum computer actually breaks a major encryption system. Sensitive data often needs to remain confidential for years, even decades. That creates what security experts call harvest now, decrypt later. An adversary can steal encrypted data today, store it, and wait until future quantum capabilities make decryption possible. So the defensive executive order, titled Securing the Nation Against Advanced Cryptographic Attacks, it directs federal agencies to move high-value and high-impact systems to NIST-approved post-quantum cryptography. The key deadlines are December 31, 2030, for post-quantum key establishment, and December 31, 2031, for post-quantum digital signatures. That may sound far away. In federal IT terms, it is not. Migrating cryptography across a large organization is not like updating an app on your phone. Agencies have to know where cryptography is used, which systems rely on which certificates, which vendors are involved, how long data must remain protected, and whether new algorithms work reliably across existing infrastructure. That is why the order focuses on inventories, migration leads, procurement rules, contractor obligations, pilot projects, cryptographic bills of materials, and validation processes. The government is not just naming new algorithms. It is trying to build a migration machine. And there is a reason NIST is central here. In August 2024, NIST approved the first 3 federal post-quantum cryptography standards: FIPS 203 for key encapsulation, and FIPS 204 and FIPS 205 for digital signatures. These are classical algorithms designed to resist attacks from both classical and quantum computers. That is worth emphasizing. Post-quantum cryptography does not require a quantum computer. It is software and systems work that can begin now. For enterprises, this federal push matters because government policy often becomes a market signal. If federal agencies need post-quantum ready systems, then contractors, cloud providers, cybersecurity vendors, hardware makers, and critical infrastructure operators will feel the pressure too. That means quantum security may become commercial before quantum computing itself becomes broadly commercial. Now, the second executive order, ushering in the next frontier of quantum innovation, is about the other side of the equation: It updates the national quantum agenda and directs a new strategy within 180 days. It creates an effort called QC-ADS, short for Quantum Computer for Application Development and Discovery Science, aimed at pursuing a quantum computer that can support quantum-enabled scientific discovery. This is where the government is trying to define what useful quantum computing actually means. For years, the industry often talked about progress in terms of physical qubit counts. More qubits sounded better. But the conversation is maturing. The real question is not just how many qubits a machine has. It is whether those qubits are reliable enough, error-corrected enough, and connected to useful software workflows. That is why logical qubits, error correction, circuit depth, and application-level performance are becoming more important measures. IBM is a good example. The company has laid out a roadmap toward IBM Quantum Starling, a fault-tolerant system it says is intended by 2029 to run circuits with 100 million gates on 200 logical qubits. That is an ambition, not a guarantee. But it shows how the field is shifting from impressive demonstrations towards systems that might eventually do sustained, useful work. And IBM is only one piece of the landscape. Quantum remains a competition among different technical approaches. Superconducting qubits, trapped ions, neutral atoms, photonics, silicon spin qubits, and quantum annealing. No single architecture has definitively won. That uncertainty is reflected in policy. The federal strategy appears designed to support commercial participation, domestic supply chains, and multiple technical pathways, rather than placing one massive bet on a single design. In a frontier technology market, the first big question is not simply which company has the best presentation. It is which architecture can scale, which team can manufacture, which system can be programmed, and which business model can survive long development cycles. Large incumbents such as IBM, Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon, and NVIDIA have the advantage of deep balance sheets and existing revenue streams. They can fund quantum work as part of broader cloud, AI, semiconductor, and high-performance computing strategies. Smaller, pure-play quantum companies offer more direct exposure, but they often come with higher risk. Execution risk, dilution risk, valuation risk, and the possibility that the market may move slower than investors hope. That is why market reactions to quantum headlines need to be handled carefully. Federal funding, executive orders, and procurement signals can extend runway and attract attention. They do not, by themselves, prove that a company has solved fault tolerance or found a near-term profitable market. This is a strategic technology trade, not a simple earnings story. Still, commercial activity is picking up. D-Wave recently announced a forthcoming gate-model quantum simulator designed for error-aware programming. In plain English, the idea is to help developers model quantum processor behavior and prepare for systems where errors are not abstract theory, but a central part of programming. Quantum Computing Inc. announced on June 23 that it completed a cash and stock acquisition of Enhanced Semiconductors, adding semiconductor, nanophotonics, packaging, testing, laser, and detector capabilities. That kind of deal points to a larger theme. Quantum commercialization is not just about algorithms. It is also about manufacturing, photonics, packaging, fabrication, cryogenics, control electronics, and specialized supply chains. The companies that can turn fragile lab systems into repeatable industrial products may matter just as much as the companies with the cleverest theory. This is also why regional quantum hubs are becoming part of the national strategy. States are trying to build local clusters that connect universities, startups, labs, facilities, and workforce pipelines. Connecticut has pledged $121 million toward quantum technology initiatives tied to Quantum CT, Yale, and UConn. Illinois has committed major public investment to the Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park, with PsiQuantum as an anchor tenant, and photonics manufacturing capacity as part of the broader vision. These efforts matter because quantum is physical. It needs specialized facilities. It needs people who understand lasers, dilution refrigerators, nanofabrication, error correction, materials science, and advanced software. It needs universities and suppliers close enough to create a talent flywheel. If quantum becomes a major industry, the geography of that industry will matter. Think of the earlier clustering effects in semiconductors around Silicon Valley and Taiwan, or biotech around Boston and San Diego. Quantum hubs are trying to create the same kind of ecosystem before the market fully arrives. The Pentagon's role is another key piece. The Innovation Order directs the Pentagon to prioritize at least 3 next-generation quantum sensor projects for fielding by September 30th, 2028. Quantum sensors may sound less glamorous than quantum computers, but they could be important sooner. Potential applications include navigation, timing, detection, imaging, and measurement in environments where GPS is jammed, unavailable, or unreliable. For defense agencies, that is a serious operational concern. So when we talk about quantum, we should not talk only about computers. Quantum sensing and quantum networking may become practical in different timelines, for different markets, and with different risk profiles. That creates a broader investment map. There are hardware companies, software companies, cybersecurity vendors, semiconductor suppliers, photonics specialists, cryogenics firms, cloud platforms, defense contractors, universities, national labs, and systems integrators. The quantum economy, if it develops, will not be one market, it will be a stack. Now, what does all this mean for the near term? The first near-term story is cybersecurity migration. This is the most measurable part of the federal agenda. Agencies must name leaders, inventory systems, build migration plans, and begin implementing NIST-approved standards. Contractors should expect procurement requirements to follow. For corporate leaders, the practical question is simple. Do you know where your cryptography lives? Most large organizations do not have a complete real-time map of every cryptographic dependency across applications, devices, cloud services, certificates, third-party vendors, and legacy systems. That creates opportunity for cybersecurity companies focused on cryptographic discovery, crypto agility, key management, certificate lifecycle management, compliance, and secure implementation of post-quantum algorithms. The second near-term story is government-defined demand. The updated National Quantum Strategy, due within 180 days of the June 22nd order, should clarify priorities across commercialization, research, defense, supply chains, and international coordination. The Department of Energy's work on technical specifications for a science-enabling quantum computer will also be important. It could shape how government defines useful capability, and by extension, which companies and architectures look strategically relevant. The third near-term story is proof. Investors should watch for reproducible demonstrations, where quantum workflows outperform the best-known classical approaches on economically meaningful problems. Not just benchmark tasks, not just marketing language. Real problems in chemistry, materials, logistics, finance, insurance, energy, or defense. The most likely model is hybrid. Quantum processors will not replace classical computers, at least not in the foreseeable future. They are more likely to function as accelerators inside larger workflows that also use CPUs, GPUs, AI systems, and supercomputers. That is why companies such as NVIDIA are focused on hybrid quantum classical programming environments. And it is why quantum may ultimately become part of the high-performance computing and AI infrastructure conversation, rather than a completely separate universe. So here are the forward-looking scenarios. In the optimistic scenario, the federal push accelerates both security and commercialization. Agencies build real cryptographic inventories. Vendors adopt post-quantum standards. Contractors modernize faster than expected. Meanwhile, quantum hardware improves steadily. Error correction becomes more practical, and specialized use cases emerge in science, materials, optimization, and sensing. In that world, the winners may include not only quantum hardware firms, but also cybersecurity vendors, cloud platforms, semiconductor and photonics suppliers, and regional hubs with deep technical ecosystems. In the middle scenario, the cybersecurity transition moves forward, but quantum computing commercialization remains slower and uneven. Agencies make progress on high-value systems, but legacy infrastructure and vendor complexity create delays. Hardware companies continue improving, but broad commercial quantum advantage remains limited to narrow use cases. That scenario may still be investable, but it rewards patience and quality. Incumbents and infrastructure suppliers may fare better than speculative pure plays. In the risk scenario, the hype cycle outruns the engineering. Stocks rise on headlines, but companies struggle with scaling, error correction, manufacturing yield, or revenue generation. Federal programs help, but not enough to overcome technical bottlenecks. Some firms consolidate, pivot, or dilute shareholders. That is not a reason to ignore the sector. It is a reason to separate national importance from investment certainty. A technology can be strategically vital and still be difficult to monetize in the near term. That distinction is crucial. The new U.S. quantum agenda is not a declaration that practical, fault-tolerant quantum computing has arrived. It is a recognition that the race is important enough to organize now. Washington is trying to do three things at once: accelerate quantum machines for scientific discovery, push quantum sensors and networks towards strategic applications, and protect today's digital systems against tomorrow's cryptographic threats. The biggest uncertainty is timing. A science-capable quantum computer by the late 2020s is now a policy target and an industry aspiration. But major engineering challenges remain. The more immediate task is cybersecurity migration, and that task is concrete. Find the cryptography, understand the risk, build agility, adopt standards, prepare vendors, modernize procurement, protect data before the threat fully arrives. For investors, the takeaway is this: quantum is moving from promise to policy. That can create opportunity, but it does not remove risk. The best lens is not hype versus skepticism. It is readiness. Which agencies can migrate? Which companies can execute? Which technologies can scale? Which suppliers can manufacture? Which platforms can plug quantum into real computing workflows? That is where the next phase of the quantum story will be written. Not just in research papers, not just in stock charts, but in procurement rules, security roadmaps, supply chains, defense programs, and the slow, difficult work of turning breakthrough science into usable infrastructure. This episode is for informational purposes only. It is not financial advice, investment advice, legal advice, or cybersecurity consulting. For decisions involving capital, compliance, or security architecture, consult qualified professionals.